What's up, everybody? Sometimes I think I ought to do a reality show. Uh, seriously, seriously, a reality show. Yeah, I got TVs in my office because I like to watch the news and stuff. Um, I'm gonna make a quick video about something that is alarming me, and I know that this, when clients, well, I don't even want to say clients, when people go through this situation, that it could be very stressing, fearful. And what I'm talking about is when someone gets a judgment and then they appoint a receiver to liquidate your assets. And what caught my attention on this recently, because I mean, this is something that people have known about for years that could happen, depending on if you know what assets you might have. Mainly, it was reserved for business people. I've had business clients where they had lost lawsuits and their bank accounts were garnished. That's where they would take as much money as possible. There is no limit when it's a business. If you owe 40,000 and you got 40,000 in there, they're going to be able to garnish all 40,000. If you have assets, I've seen where they've came and taken equipment. I've seen where they've came and taken paid off delivery vans, semi trucks. I've seen where they've taken real estate. As a matter of fact, my situation further back than I would like to even be thinking back, because I'm not the type of person that looks back other than for experience. But I had an experience where I had lost business lawsuit for a business that I was actually a partner in, that I ended up getting sued and lost the lawsuit, but that was because I didn't even know that I was being sued. But that, I take responsibility on that. But I ended up with all of the appeals and everything still losing for over $100,000. And they put a receiver, judgment receiver. This is what they're called. It gives them special power. So when you have a post-judgment receiver, this is the key word, post-judgment receiver. A post-judgment receiver will have, they're empowered with being able to go and liquidate your assets. So what they do is they will look at what you have, and they can do it by various ways. One way is they'll go and take pictures of your residence. They'll take pictures of your vehicles. They'll take pictures of properties that you own. They're able to look that up by the county registry, tax rolls, whatever means that they can try to gather that data outside of what's on your credit reports. And then they will go back into court and say that they believe that they had the assets to satisfy the judgment. And that's how they put a lot of pressure on business people to settle. And with me, I ended up settling for I think it was $42,000 or $43,000. And to just have to, sometimes you gotta deal with it, and that's what I did. And learn from that. And also, that's been able. My experience with that has been able to help a lot of people, especially my business clients, on not getting into that situation, because there was a way that I could have avoided it if I would have known. That's why I tell people, if you have a judgment against you, I don't care what you got to do. If you can't afford to pay anyone to help you, you still show up, because you don't want these people going behind your back and getting a judgment, and then they appoint these receivers. Now, what brought this to my attention from last week was that now I'm starting to see a combination of how these debt collection companies and original creditors are going to start to proceed in the future to put a lot of pressure on people to pay up. One of the things that they're going to be doing is, so follow me on this. They get a judgment. Against the person. And let's just say that the person does not show up to court, or they get a judgment and then they're trying to contact you by either if you your job, but if they can't get you by your job and you're a 1099 worker, which in the past 1099 worker would actually work in your benefit. People would just be like, I'm not even responding. I'll deal with it later. Now, and I may have even said that in some of my past videos. Well, in this video, I'm updating this because this is what I'm starting to see. If you're 1099, where you own your own business or you're getting paid by another business 1099, what they will do is they will, number one, look at your assets. They're going to look at what you're paying on. They're going to get that information from your credit reports. But if you do not contact them, this is what's different now. This is what's different. If you do not contact them, they are actually putting out contempt of court orders to have people arrested. No, they cannot put someone in jail for not paying a debt. No, there is no debtor's prison. But in a sense, if you were to get a parking ticket and then they put you in jail until a judge was able to ask you what you're going to do about that debt, I think that some of you, I know I would, including me, would feel like I'm in jail. Because they could put you in jail, book you, do all of the stuff, take you off the street, take you into custody, put you in jail to go see the judge. This has happened in the past, and now it seems like they're ramping this up again because this is one of the tools. All of this stuff is tools that is available to debt collectors and creditors to get people in the court to face the music, so to speak, on a debt that they owe. And so what I saw with a client that became a client after they got into this situation is that they had a contempt of court order against them for a judgment, for post-judgment. And now here's the other part where it all comes together full circle, is that now they want post-judgment receivers put in place so they can liquidate the assets of individuals faster. So the bottom line, there's certain things that they just cannot take. Certain things they cannot take. But if you have assets, that are of value, I mean, these people are trying to come up with ways to get money. And so what they're doing is they're putting these receivers in place, and they're utilizing all the means of data, credit reports, sending out private investigators to take pictures, see what assets, looking at court, looking at county records for tax rolls, see what property you have, everything. And if they do whatever their algorithm is, whatever their data input, whatever they're using, when they determine that an individual has the money, they are going all out. So now let's talk about the solutions. Solution number one, if you do not have the money to settle with them. Well, no, starting at the beginning. Sorry about that. At the beginning, open communications. Because if you have the communications open, they cannot put the contempt order. Even if you have a default judgment and you call them and say, hey, this is my situation, I cannot pay, they cannot do the contempt order. Because you've communicated. And if you want to take it a step further to protect yourself, send that to the judge too and say, Judge, I got this judgment. I communicated with them. I don't have the money right now. I'll be dealing with this. If they move forward trying to do a garnishment or whatever, that's what they're going to do. But at least you won't be out there eating lunch with your family like the lady. There was a lady that was eating lunch in Minnesota. You could type this in. Arrested for debt. In Minnesota, you could type arrested for debt, ACLU, for people who had medical bills that were like $200, payday loan bills that they didn't pay for like $150, $300, getting arrested. So type it in so you don't have to just take my word on it. And what they did is the police going around at the park, looking at license plates, running license plates, you know what they do. And that individual's plate, just like other times that they get people that might have had tickets and other stuff, said contempt of court, arrest her. She was eating lunch at a park and got arrested over a debt, and they took her in. And if it wasn't the weekday, They would have had that lady in jail until she was able to see a judge on Monday. So I'm not saying this to scare nobody. What I'm saying is I'm saying it to have you avoid. So you know your situation. You know your situation, and we all have to come to a realization of where we are at right now. Where you are at right now, where I'm at, no matter what your situation is, good or bad, you should be fully aware of what your situation is. And if you're in that type of situation that I just talked about, you need to deal with it so you don't have them deal with it at a time that you're not ready to deal with it. So step one, if you have a judgment, you communicate. Even if you can't pay, you communicate. That stops the contempt. Next, if you have money, offer a settlement if you have money. Start at 15%, whatever you're comfortable with, depending on how old the debt is and if a debt collector has it or if an original creditor has it. And we're talking about a judgment, so we're not talking about where you're fighting, because if you've already lost, that's what the point of this video is if you've already lost, there's no going back. You just got to pay, and we're trying to figure out what you're going to pay. So if it depending on if it's a debt collector or if it's the original creditor, you should still start at about 15%, work your way up. If you had the money, don't contact them if you don't have the money, and don't promise any amount of money that you can't get to them, because their mindset is like this. If I settle this $10,000 debt with you for $2,500, you better have it in 10 days, or why should we feel good about doing it? If you got the benefit of $10,000, you can't pay because of your situation, we're going to give you a discount on that. You're only going to pay $2,500 back. You better have the money in 10 days. That's how they're looking at it. That's how they are looking at it. So put yourself in the right position. That's what I talk about on here. This is real life stuff. I've seen people make settlement agreements and they couldn't stick to them. Don't do that. So you approach them with your offer and only do what you're comfortable with. If they won't come down, then you just say, I can't do it then. If your goal is to just do one lump sum payment. If you cannot do one lump sum payment, don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to them. Make a payment arrangement to avoid this stuff so you can move forward. Because they're going to garnish your wages. And if you make a payment arrangement, it could be a lot lower than what the 25% guidelines are for them being able to take money out of your paycheck. It still gives you the control of at least being able to negotiate a payment amount. Now, if you already have the garnishment, I want you to check a couple of things. First, check to see if you qualify to be garnished. There's several federal and state exemptions. You got to check your state laws. Do your homework on it because it's very important. And then also, the amount could be adjusted. And even if the amount can't be adjusted by paper, by the way that your laws stated, you can contact the collector and say, I need to have this adjusted. I just can't make it. And they will usually adjust it. They might say, well, fill out this paperwork or that. Get the paperwork filled out and get it back over to them. We are talking about you and your family being able to move forward financially. Do what is needed so you can move forward. So a lot of times when I see people's files, what holds it back is that the individual is not ready to move forward. So if you're ready to move forward, then you have to be willing to do what it takes. And some of this stuff isn't going to feel good. Some of it isn't going to be comfortable. But when you get to that new change, you're going to feel a lot better. Now, if they wouldn't call it change if you knew how it was going to feel. They call it change because it's going to feel different. You don't understand that feeling, But just imagine if you had a $10,000 debt, you paid $2,500. The next day, you have that off of your back, and you're able to move forward. That's what we're talking about. So, to sum it up, what I'm starting to see is that they're collection companies and original creditors from people who did not know how to fight. If you need help responding to a court summons, I have a link below this video that will at least give you a fighting chance. So when they get the judgments, what they're doing is they're doing the contempt to get people to come in because people won't communicate. They didn't show up and they got a default judgment. Now they're not communicating. Or even if they did show up and they lost, they are, when they try to communicate, they didn't get any answer. So they're utilizing a tool that the court allows them to do with the contempt, and they arrest people over a debt collection. Original creditors and debt collectors are using it, but mainly, I've mainly seen it for debt collectors, but last week there was one with an original creditor. Second step is appointing a post-judgment receiver that has more power to liquidate the debtor's assets to satisfy the creditor's judgment. And just to review the way that they do this is the way they look up people, what they have. They look at the credit reports. If you're paying on a car, you're paying on a mortgage, if your rent's being reported, if you got credit cards, if you got student loans, they add that stuff up and say, this is what we think they're paying payments on. And they don't care if they destroy your payment history with somebody else, if they're going to be able to get the money. They do not care if they destroy your payment history paying something else, as long as they get their money. That's their thinking. I'm just telling you straight up how these people, or these, people do the work, but they're doing the work for their clients, and this is just the way they do it. All right, so if you need help with your credit, please visit us at thecreditrepairshop.com. Watch the video, What Makes Us Different, so you can see my 8-point validation process, my 2-phase settlement process. If you need your credit reports and scores, go to the website, 3scores.com, to grab your TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian credit reports and all 3 scores. If you have debt collectors coming after you, grab my 3-pack of letters. You can stop a lot of this early. Statute of limitations letter for debt that is past the legal statute of limitations to collect or time barred. My cease and desist collection activities letter that will ask them questions that they're not used to you, a regular consumer, asking for them to have done their homework on before coming after you for that debt. That sheet will usually get a lot of debt collectors to stop coming after you. And then I have a debt validation letter for the back and forth, because they might say, well, hey, we got this, and then you just need to be able to go back and forth with them. Thank you for your time. Please subscribe to my channel. Post your questions and comments. This is Stephen A. Williams,